What should have been a simple weekend pickup turned into a legal nightmare, one that saw a father behind bars for nearly half a year. Christopher Teasley made the long drive, court order in hand, ready to spend time with his son. But when he arrived, the child was nowhere to be found. Chelsea Lyles, the mother, had taken their son early, claiming she no longer felt safe with the existing arrangements. The plot thickens. Both parents had active restraining orders against each other, and official court paperwork explicitly required all exchanges to happen through the grandparents. No direct handoffs, no daycare drop-offs. Tensions exploded. Police were called. Teasley stood his ground, insisting he just wanted to see his son. What followed was a legal battle marked by 4 denied bond hearings, a plea deal, and months behind bars. A story that some see as a tragic misunderstanding, others as a red flag. This case is complicated, emotional, and far from clear-cut. Here's a detailed breakdown of what happened, and my thoughts on the whole situation. On April 17, 2024, Christopher Teasley filed a petition for legitimization and custody. For those who may not know, in Georgia, if a child is born out of wedlock, the father doesn't automatically have legal rights. He has to go to court to be recognized as the legal parent and to establish his right to visitation or custody. This is exactly what Teasley did. The court responded by issuing a standing order, a standard move meant to keep things stable and prevent either parent from disrupting the process while the case moved forward. Just a month later, on May 16, 2024, Chelsea Lyles filed for a temporary protective order under Georgia's Family Violence Act. Now here's something important. There was no police report of violence, no documented incident, but the judge still granted the order on an emergency basis, meaning it was issued without Teasley even being present in court. This only happens if the court believes there's an immediate need for protection. It's a powerful legal tool, but it also raises questions. What made the court act so quickly? Was there a real threat, or was this a strategic move? It's a question worth asking, especially since the order was later dismissed in favor of a mutual agreement. By June 12, 2024, both parties agreed to a mutual restraining order. This meant no direct or indirect contact, no calls, no texts, no showing up unannounced. All child exchanges were to be handled by the grandparents, and a strict visitation schedule was set. Thursdays from 4 to 6 p.m. and every other weekend. On paper, it looked like a truce, but in reality, the tension was still simmering beneath the surface. Then, on July 21st, 2024, things took a turn. Chelsea went to a QT gas station in Jefferson County for a court-ordered exchange, expecting to meet Teasley's parents. But instead, Teasley himself showed up. That was a clear violation of the restraining order. Chelsea left immediately, and according to her report, Teasley later called her and left a voicemail. On August 7th, 2024, Chelsea filed a motion for contempt, citing the QT incident, a phone call on July 30th, and an email on August 1st. That's 3 separate violations in just a few weeks. This was the moment Chelsea drew a line in the sand, saying, in effect, that this wasn't just about missed exchanges, but about repeated violations and a growing sense of fear. Then came the moment that went viral. August 22nd, 2024. Teasley arrived at the daycare for his regular Thursday pickup, only to find that Chelsea had already taken the child and left. He refused to leave, police were called, and the body cam footage we all saw captured the raw emotion of the moment. Watching that footage, it's hard not to feel for Teasley. He looked like a dad who just wanted to see his son. But as I looked deeper, it became clear that this wasn't an isolated incident. It was part of a larger pattern. Late in August 2024, Teasley was arrested and charged with aggravated stalking in DeKalb County. The district attorney's case wasn't just built on the daycare incident. It included voicemails, text messages, emails, and repeated in-person contact, all while Teasley was under a court order to stay away. He was denied bond 4 separate times, with the court citing a pattern of disregard for legal boundaries and a potential risk to the victim. On October 7, 2024, while Teasley was still in jail, a temporary custody hearing was held. The court confirmed his paternity, but gave Chelsea primary physical custody, with limited and supervised visitation for Teasley, including virtual parenting time. On January 2, 2025, the court issued a final order of legitimization, joint legal custody, primary custody to Chelsea, and all communication to go through monitored parenting apps only. On January 7, 2025, Teasley was denied bond for the 4th time. On January 27, 2025, he accepted a plea deal, pleading guilty to a lesser charge. He received 12 months probation, credit for time served, and a permanent restraining order, with all contact limited to court-approved parenting apps. On January 31, 2025, Teasley filed to set aside the custody ruling, arguing that he couldn't properly defend himself while incarcerated. On March 14, 2025, Chelsea responded, and the court upheld its decision. It may be worth noting, they also now have a child support order in place. Both parents were required to submit financial disclosures. According to court filings, Chelsea reported earning approximately $4,300 a month, while Teasley reported about $1,100 a month. Now, I'm not pocket watching, and I'm not trying to embarrass anybody. I'm just reporting the facts, because context matters. Kids are expensive. Daycare costs will eat up a paycheck quick. If one parent is covering the bulk of it, that can create tension. In Georgia, child support calculations are based on both parents' income, health insurance, daycare costs, and parenting time. So when those numbers come into play, it helps explain why the court ruled the way it did. Now, let's take a step back and unpack some of the key moments and questions. That QT incident is a perfect example. I reached out to the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office myself, hoping to get the body cam footage. They searched their records but couldn't find any video. However, they did send me the official incident report, which confirms the timeline and matches what Chelsea later told the court. This kind of documentation is crucial. It's what helps separate fact from rumor. When Chelsea filed the contempt motion on August 7th, she wasn't just complaining about a missed exchange, she was making a statement. This was about more than just inconvenience. It was about repeated violations and a real sense of fear. And when you watch the body cam footage from August 22nd, it's clear that Chelsea was genuinely shaken. This wasn't just frustration or anger. It was something deeper, something that's hard to fake. Now, to be fair, it's also worth pointing out that Chelsea may have violated the restraining order too when she showed up at the daycare early on Teasley's scheduled pickup day. Was that strategic? Was it fear? Was it a setup? I can't say. But that action, taking the child before the visit, sparked the confrontation we all saw on video. And let's talk about Chelsea's grandma for a second. Please, shut the bleep up. Every 5 seconds it was her voice in the background, jumping in like she's the one with court orders. Look, I get it, that's your daughter. But you're not helping, you're hijacking. You're not a lawyer, you're not a therapist, you're just adding fuel to a fire that's already out of control. Sometimes the best thing you can do is fall all the way back. This is where things get messy. Some people think Chelsea used the child as a weapon, showing up early, blocking visits, not following the court-ordered exchange process. Others believe she was just trying to protect herself. And me? I don't know what's in her heart, but I do know this. She filed for a family violence order. And even though it was dismissed later in favor of a mutual no-contact agreement, the court thought her concerns were serious enough to act on them immediately. There's no police report saying Teasley laid hands on her, but there is a pattern of texts, calls, unexpected appearances, and in the eyes of the court, that was enough. Here's my final thought. This wasn't just a missed pickup. It was a storm of emotion, legal mistakes, miscommunication, and fear. So what looked like a father being shut out of his child's life turned out to be a man who ignored court orders over and over. What started as just a daycare argument was actually the third recorded incident in a string of confrontations. And once the full picture came into focus, the courts made their decision to protect the child's mother. But let's go even deeper. This wasn't just a daycare dispute. It was a collision of fear, control, love, hurt, boundaries, and mistakes on both sides. And at the center of it all, a child, caught in the middle, watching this all unfold, living with the consequences of decisions he didn't make. That's what breaks my heart the most. Here's what I want you to take away from this. Body cam footage, that shows you the spark. But court records, they show you the fire. And the truth, it's always deeper than one video. Because sometimes, the person who sounds calm is still the one causing chaos. Sometimes harm doesn't look like yelling or hitting. It looks like ignoring boundaries, showing up uninvited, making people feel unsafe in their daily lives. This isn't just about custody. This is about control, safety, and power dynamics. And look, I'm not saying Chelsea is perfect. I'm not saying Christopher's evil. But I am saying, when a judge denies bond 4 times and makes a restraining order permanent, there's usually a reason. The biggest tragedy? A child caught in the middle of grown-up conflict, while both parents fight for control and forget who suffers the most. This isn't about sides. This is about safety, about accountability, and about understanding that family court is not about who wins. It's about who needs protection. Family court is messy. There are rarely clean wins. Only people trying to protect what matters most or control what they're afraid to lose. So before we rush to judgment based on a single clip, a single headline, or a single side, let's take the time to look deeper. Because at the end of the day, the law doesn't ask who's louder. It asks who's at risk. This is Marcel from Atlanta Crime Files. If you value this kind of breakdown, if you appreciate honest, in-depth analysis and fairness, subscribe, like, and share. And let's keep digging for the full truth. I'll catch y'all on the next one. I'm out.